A very good morning and welcome to Breakfast with Dan Walker and Louise Minchin.
Headlines for you at 6 o'clock. Story for you this morning is the growing anger over the way A-levels have been graded as grammar school heads and sixth form colleges join the criticism of the government.
Pupils have been protesting this weekend after almost 40% of grades in England awarded last week were lower than teachers' predictions. It comes just days before GCSE results are due to be released. Charlotte Gallagher reports.
A new wave of strikes are expected to start in Belarus this morning in efforts to force the president there, Alexander Lukashenko, to step down.
Tens of thousands of people marched through the Belarusian capital Minsk yesterday to protest at the result of the election, which they say was rigged. Let's get the latest from our correspondent, Jonah Fisher.
Now, flash flooding has caused travel disruption and damage to homes and businesses across southern parts of the country over the course of the weekend.
Yeah, it comes after the Met Office issued yellow thunderstorm warnings for much of England and Wales following last week's hot weather. Alex Dunlop has more.
And Carol's going to have more on that weather disruption and what the weather looks like for us throughout the morning today. Now, the first major cruise ship to set sail in the Mediterranean in almost 5 months left the Italian city of Genoa yesterday.
Now, police deal with all sorts of different kind of cases when they're on night patrol, but officers in Northamptonshire weren't expecting this. This is, I'll show you.
The
headlines, but not the
sort of switched
news.
off a little bit, yes.
Everybody's allowed a holiday.
Yeah, thank you.
Self-employed people could be eligible for more support from today as the government launches its latest scheme to help people through the coronavirus outbreak. And Nina is here to explain to everyone.
Our main story this morning, though, is looking at the current crisis over exam results. I should say, if you've got a question or a concern on this issue, we're going to be joined by our education editor, Branwen Jeffries, at 8:10.
Also, an example, for example, if you needed specific grades, didn't get them as well, do let us know too.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful this morning. So hundreds of students took to the streets over the weekend to protest over the way that these A-level results were decided this year. And there's still confusion over the appeals process for those who didn't quite get those predicted grades.
Yeah, here at Breakfast, we've been inundated with stories from pupils who've had their future plans thrown into doubt. Let's hear from some of them. She makes a good point there about GCSEs. Lots of people waiting for those, of course, on Thursday. And those are just a handful of students from the almost 40% who've had their predicted A-level results downgraded this year.
As we said, do get in contact with us this morning. We mentioned that we've got our entertainment editor on later, Branwen Jeffries. And you can get in contact with us.
She's our education editor.
What did I say? Oh,
I'm not going to repeat it.
Do you know what? I was thinking about that before I said it, and then I said the wrong thing. I'm
education
very stupid.
editor.
She is education editor. She's got nothing to do with entertainment, although she is entertaining.
Yeah, she's going to be here with us at 10 past 8, actually, so do get in touch with us as well. Let's have a look at the front pages of the newspaper.
Oh, yes.
Maybe you need a cup of tea. Do you think you need a cup of tea? Apparently, the only reason I'm saying that is lots and lots of...
You're not actually interested, you just got a story you want to tell me. I was about to answer.
Have you had a...
No, you carry on.
Do you need one, yes or no?
I'm all right. I'll just have a little sip.
One day I'll convert him to coffee. It's taken me long years. This is the reason I wanted to talk about that was because it's this in lots of the papers. It's about cups of tea. Apparently, the ideal chance to teach their children how to make a proper brew.
Very important.
The essential British skill, they say, of making a cup made a list of 50 life lessons that children could learn while stuck at home. Do you know what the top 3 were? They're nice, actually. Being honest, kind and polite. But I definitely put making a cup of tea in my top 5.
I was going to answer that one as well.
No, I'm not going to... No, sorry. No, you've been on holiday, you can't answer any questions.
If you have a break, you have to catch up. Finding out you've been following the wrong lyrics is a...
I love that.
Right, OK, so this is talking about misheard lyrics. There's top of the flops. These are the most... I'll just give you a quick little... I'll do the top 3. Number 3, R.E.M's Sidewinder Sleeps Tonight, and the famous line, which I always thought was, when I was listening to it for the first time, was Calling Cheryl Baker. Most people apparently sing Calling Jamaica. The answer is Call Me When You Try to Wake Her Up, which seems far too many words to fit in that small little bit. Number 2 is ABBA's Dancing Queen, Feel the Beat of the Tangerine. Which is, of course, Feel the Beat from the tambourine. Yeah, not the tangerine. And the number 1 on their list, I'm sure you've got your own suggestions as well, is The Police is So Lonely, which, of course, everyone sings Sue Lawley to. Sue Lawley. That's the number 1, apparently. There's all sorts in there. Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody features quite highly because there's a lot of lyrics in there. Saving his life from his warm sausage tea. Know that one? No? Spare him his life from this monstrosity. Easy come, easy go.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. Do send us in your favourites as well, because I'm sure you've got your own personal favourites at home.
Can I tell you about this shark as well, very quickly?
Go on then.
OK. Man jumps on shark's back to save wife life. It's an Australian man who jumped on the back of a great white shark and kept punching it. I'll show you the picture in a moment. Hold on. Kept punching the shark until it released his badly bleeding wife from its jaws. Has described that he acted out of love and instinct to try and save her. Here are the couple here.
I know I was trying to defend sharks, but on this, I think maybe I'll have to leave it. 21 minutes
I remain
past
silent on the
6.
shark issue.
The opponent to Donald Trump in the US elections will be confirmed this week as the Democrats officially nominate Joe Biden as their candidate in November.
The party's national convention gets underway later, although it will be scaled down, and it's almost a virtual event because of the current pandemic. Our North American editor, John Sopel, has been finding out about Joe Biden and his running mate, Kamala Harris.
And we'll, of course, be following that closely over the next few months.
We'll be discussing all that shortly. And also, Sally's got loads of sport for us today. Ronnie O'Sullivan, 6-time snooker world champion, just one behind Stephen Hendry now. And it was another pretty miserable night for Manchester football. Manchester United got knocked out of the Europa League last night.
25 minutes past 6. And Carol can catch up with the weather for us. And this is something special you've got here, isn't it?
Isn't it? Just good.
Good morning. Let's get you up to date with the latest news stories from BBC News. And there's growing anger over the way A-levels have been graded as grammar school heads and sixth form colleges join the criticism of the government.
Now, flash flooding has caused travel disruption and damage to homes and businesses across southern parts of England over the weekend. It's 6:32. It's time for our regular GP appointments. This morning, we're going to speak to Dr. Nigat Arif once again. I've been reliably informed, by the way, that you have a gigantic cup of tea with you this morning. You're talking about the perfect cup of tea, weren't you? People learning how to make a cup of tea.
With children specifically.
Yeah, volume is important as well, clearly.
Volume, strength. Oh, Sally, it's been the end of European dreams for some, hasn't it? Morning.
Morning.
Yeah, I think some Manchester United.
Seriously hurt. Thank you very much, Sally.
Thanks,
Thank you.
that's a very busy morning for Sally this morning.
Now, for people living in abusive relationships, lockdown made it not just harder for them to leave, but for many it also meant the violence got worse.
This is according to the first in-depth research about the impact of the coronavirus outbreak on the scale and the nature of domestic abuse. It was carried out by the charity Women's Aid for Panorama. Victoria Derbyshire has more.
And if you have been affected by any of those issues afterwards.
Elsewhere this morning, a massive clean-up operation is underway to save the wildlife in Mauritius after a stranded tanker there carrying 4,000 tonnes of fuel split in two.
Yeah, thousands of local volunteers are involved, but what impact could the spill have on the local ecosystem? We're joined now by Adam Mulner.
It's 9 minutes to 7 on BBC Breakfast this morning, and losing a child is the most difficult thing that a parent can face. But for two mothers who had to endure that tragedy, it's brought them together in what is a unique friendship.
Harry Dunn and PC Andrew Harper were killed just 12 days apart. Now their mums, Charlotte and Deborah, have turned to one another for support and even discovered that their boys shared a birthday. Breakfast Graham Satchell has been to talk to them.
Oh, it's really hard to watch that, isn't it? Thank you so much to Debbie and Charlotte for speaking to us about that. And whenever you speak to a parent who's lost a child, you always get that feeling that you're inadequate, you can't ask the right questions. So that's so wonderful for the pair of them to be able to speak to somebody who's been through that same horrible experience as them. It must help.
It is coming up to 7 o'clock and the weather has been quite something. Carol's here to guide us through. Morning. Hello, very good morning and welcome to Breakfast with Dan Walker and Louise Minchin.
The 7 o'clock headlines for you this morning. It's Monday, the 17th of August. Top story for you today is that growing anger we were talking about over the way that A-levels have been graded as grammar school heads and sixth form colleges are joining forces to criticise the government.
Pupils have been protesting this weekend after almost 40% of grades in England awarded last week were lower than teachers' predictions. It comes just days before GCSE results are due to be released. Charlotte Gallagher reports. A new wave of strikes are expected to start in Belarus this morning in efforts to force its president, Alexander Lukashenko, to step down.
Tens of thousands of people marched through the Belarusian capital, that's Minsk, yesterday to protest at the result of the election, which they say was rigged. Well, earlier on this programme, our correspondent Jonah Fisher told us that pressure is building on the president.
That was Jonah Fisher reporting.
The US Democratic National Convention begins today with 4 days of party events leading up to them then officially nominating their presidential candidate.
For the first time, virtual broadcasts will feature heavily because of the pandemic, before the party will formally declare Joe Biden as their nominee alongside his running mate, Californian Senator Kamala Harris. From New York, Nader Tawfiq reports. The first major cruise ship to set sail in the Mediterranean in almost 5 months left the Italian city of Genoa yesterday.
Now, police, we know, deal with all sorts of interesting cases when they're on patrol in the evening, but officers in Nottinghamshire maybe weren't expecting this.
It is at 10 minutes past 7. You're watching Breakfast. Now, there's been confusion, uncertainty and protest this weekend over the way A-level results have been calculated and how to appeal them.
You probably know the numbers, but just to remind you, almost 40% of A-level grades awarded last Thursday in England were lower than the predictions from teachers. Let's speak to Professor T.
Thank you. At 10 past 8, we're speaking to our education editor. So, there are so many questions. We'll try and get through as many as we can with her. But if you've got some, do send them in and we'll sort of collate them, put them together and answer as many as we possibly can.
Yeah, we'll deal with what happened, obviously, with A-levels last week. And I know many of our viewers and students this morning are very concerned about what's happening with GCSEs later this week as well. So we'll try and cover all that off for you.
Thunderstorms have hit parts of the UK this weekend, causing travel disruption and some flash flooding. It comes after days of high temperatures last week.
Let's show you what's happening in Peterborough. Yes, to that video from Peterborough. 15 minutes that lasted as well.
That's something, wasn't it? It wasn't only Sean who got caught up in the bad weather. To get in touch with us this morning about that, please do using the usual address. You can email us at bbcbreakfast@bbc.co.uk or share our Facebook or on our Twitter pages as well. And of course, particularly today, as we have been for the last few days, we are talking about those A-level results as well. So if you've got questions for our education editor, send some in.
Still to come for you on BBC Breakfast.
We'll discuss that shortly, also bringing you the latest news. Right now, the time is 7:27.
So with all that to talk about, loads of weather for Carol to try and get her head round today. And Carol, talking about hot temperatures last week in many parts of the UK, I was seeing that in Death Valley in California, the temperature was 130 degrees Fahrenheit, which is in the mid-50s, isn't it, Celsius?
It's crazy. Hello, very good morning. You are watching Breakfast with Dan and Louise.
Let's bring you up to date with some of the main stories this morning, because in the last few minutes we've had it confirmed and announced that GCSE grades in Northern Ireland will be awarded on the basis of teacher assessments.
Yep, the Education Minister, Peter Weir, said he had decided to act because, unlike A-levels, there wasn't enough data on the teenagers' prior performance to ensure fairness. Let's speak now to the Shadow Education Secretary, Kate Green. Very good morning to you, and there's so much to talk to you with regard to A-levels, of course, as well. But let's speak to the government this morning, but they declined to come to speak to us on the programme.
The Department for Education did send us a statement, and they said in that they were working with the exams regulator, Ofqual, who we've spoken to this morning, to achieve as much fairness as possible for students. And on that issue of fairness and questions about A-levels, questions about GCSEs, maybe something that you've heard this morning from some of our guests, and maybe you want to pick up on, you can send those questions through to us this morning at bbcbreakfast@bbc.co.uk, because we're going to have our education editor, Branwen Jeffries, with us live on the programme at 8:10. And the plan is to try and answer as many of those questions as possible.
7:40. In the meantime, it was the end of European dreams, Sally, wasn't it?
Yeah, and more questions to answer in the football over the weekend.
Sally, thank you very much.
It's 7:44. Let's continue to talk about the exams crisis this morning and speak to the Children's Commissioner for Wales programme.
So, such an extraordinary time for so many people who didn't take those exams, who have got their results, waiting for their results of GCSEs, of course, later on this week. We're speaking to our education editor at 8:10, who can hopefully give us as much clarity as there is right now.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say everybody understands the worry and the concern for so many people, and we're going to try and reflect that not only today but throughout the week. I think this is going to be the topic of the week, isn't it?
Yes. As well as this, actually, really importantly, self-employed people could be eligible for more support from today as the government launches its latest scheme to help people through the coronavirus outbreak. Nina is here to explain. Also, for all the everybody who's been in touch about A-level grades, results, and we know that GCSEs also this week, so much concern out there. Thank you so much for being in touch with us.
Yeah, those examples, as you're saying, about some of the sort of head-scratching examples of how the system has sort of caused issues. We spoke earlier about that young student who, because somebody at her school in the past had got a U, somebody in her class this year had to get a U because of the algorithm, and that was her because of all the people in maths. She was at the bottom of that list. Here's another example, and you might have seen these if you're on social media last night. Lewis Goodall, who works for Newsnight, was posting these. This is a story about somebody called David who goes to a college in Gateshead. He's the first in his family to go to university. He had a place at Cambridge, but he had to get an A star, and an A, and he got an A star, an A, and a B, and his place is on hold. And the way that this worked is that because of these calculations, they downgraded his grade. Now, he only went down from an A star to an A, but other people at his same college went from an A to a C and a D. And the reason for that is the system cannot account for the sudden improvement, because in the past, results of that college haven't been of that standard. So therefore, the algorithm said they can't be of that standard this time around, because essentially nobody at that college had ever got an A star in that subject before in maths. The algorithm said nobody can get an A star this time around. So David and others are on hold.
And GCSE results, of course, on Thursday. Should we have a look at the weather? And Carol's got something quite special to show us, actually, haven't you? Good morning.
Yes.
Hello, very good morning to you. Welcome to Breakfast with Dan Walker and Louise Minchin.
Headlines for you at 8 o'clock this morning. Good morning. It's Monday, the 17th of August, and let's talk about that growing anger over the way that A-levels have been graded as grammar school heads and sixth form colleges are joining the criticism of the government this morning.
Pupils have...
Well, speaking on this programme, the Sixth Form Colleges Association demanded swift national action on England's A-level grades.
We will be continuing to talk about that throughout the programme in about 5 minutes' time as well. We've got lots more on that. I'm sure lots of you will want to watch. Flash flooding has caused travel disruption and damage to homes and businesses across southern parts of the UK over this weekend.
This comes after the Met Office issued yellow thunderstorm warnings, as Carol's been telling us, for much of England and Wales after last week's hot weather. Here's Alex Dunlop with more.
So let's get more on what's been our main story for the last few days, actually. 8 minutes past 8. And so many of you getting in touch with us all morning about A-levels and asking what is going to happen next.
Yeah, the government has defended the approach that it used to determine grades amid protests over the way that they were awarded and confusion as well over the appeals process.
So let's hear from some of the students who have contacted Breakfast after getting results which fell short of what they were expecting.
And thank you to all of you who sent in those questions today. And as Louise says, it's going to be a busy week for Bramwell and many others as well.
You are watching Breakfast. Still to come on the programme this morning.
We'll be discussing that shortly. Yeah, we've got the latest news. Sally's got a really packed sport morning for you as well. But right now, the time is 8:27.
And Carol can update us on what's been a really busy weekend weather-wise, hasn't it? Morning.
It's 8:30. Thanks for being with us this morning. Now, losing a child, we all know this, don't we, is the most difficult thing that a parent can face. But for two mothers who've had to endure this tragedy, it's brought them together in a unique friendship.
Harry Dunn and PC Andrew Harper were killed just 12 days apart. Now their mums, Charlotte and Deborah, have turned to one another for support and even discovered that their boys shared the same birthday. Breakfast Graham Satchell has been to talk to them. Thank you to them both for talking to us, as ever, and we will obviously continue as well to follow what happens with their campaigns.
Yeah, it's 8:35. On Breakfast for You Now, Sally is going to try and tidy up what was an incredibly busy weekend of sport. And the longest football season that any of us can ever remember, Sal, is still going on. And it's ended with a bit of a whimper for Manchester United, isn't it? No chance of getting that epic finish that we saw to the last one, then. It's all going to be a bit damp at the end.
Don't think so.
Thank you, Sal.
So.
Thank you. By now, most of us are used to video calls being used for everything from family quizzes to socially distanced birthday parties, whole set of meetings. How about a whole movie, though, created on Zoom?
Friends and filmmakers Jed Shepherd and Rob Savage have recorded a 56-minute-long horror film. It's called Host. We can watch a bit of it now before we speak to them. Don't worry. It's not, this bit at least, is not too scary.
You said it wasn't scary.
Oh, I can feel the hairs on the back of my neck.
Wow. Anyway, apparently, I mean, that's just a little bit of it. We're joined now by the creators of the... Jed and Rob. So how did you come up with this idea?
Bring Gemma in because, Gemma, these two guys have had this genius idea. At what point did you get involved? And what do you think is the sort of I suppose, the most important part of this story and the way that it's gone down so well? To me, but I like watching them. I get the genuine fear. I'm still haunted by ones.
It's a thrill ride.
Exactly, that is precisely right. And the thing about this, Gemma, is this has gone down really well. At what point did you realise, people like this? This is getting great reviews.
I mean, I couldn't possibly say. Well, what I will tell you all, though, is that our producer, who was watching it this morning, apparently full-on screamed as well. Yeah, look at you. You laugh. She's scared. You scared her. I suppose, Gemma, when you watch it back, do you, obviously, you've written it. Did it kind of, were you surprised by how scary it was?
The other clever thing about it, Rob and Jed, is that it's sort of the length of a Zoom call, which we're all used to as well, isn't it? It's not like over an hour long, is it?
That was something that was
available on Amazon Prime. I'm going.
Shut up.
Okay, I'm going to try and watch it. And remember, Gemma, just it's not scary. It's funny.
Just laugh.
Watch it with friends. Watch it with friends, and just send us the reaction videos. We love seeing those.
And it is going to be on the big screen as well. Is that right? When we're able to. Yes.
Yeah, it's
good to chat. Thank you very much indeed, all of you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Well done.
Happy spookies.
Happy spookies.
It didn't affect me at all. It didn't affect me at all. I'm fine. Thank you.
Very good morning. You are watching BBC Breakfast. We're going to talk about safety at sea now, actually, because the deaths of two brothers who went missing off the Lancashire coast on Saturday is a stark reminder of just how dangerous the coast can be.
But one 9-year-old girl had a very fortunate escape when the inflatable swan that she was blown out to sea on, she was actually rescued by 17-year-old Liam Erskine and his paddleboard. Delighted to say we're joined now by Liam for talking to us. Talk us through the situation first of all. What in terms of the rescue? How did it start? What did you see?
Well, first off,
it's about 9. How did you keep calm as well?
Well,
very proud mum sitting next to you this morning, Lee. I mean, Joe, what is your response to what your son did?
I mean, this is a sort of really stark reminder of how dangerous, particularly inflatables, can be.
Yeah, good.
Indeed. And
thank you.
Liam, what a star you are. Thank you very much, Liam. Thanks very much, Joe, as well. I can see you're a super proud mum. Thank you all very much indeed. And as ever, we'd have done, a couple of years ago, we did do a little bit of a video, didn't we, on Breakfast about how to look after yourself in cold water. And we'll put that on social media again. I know it's been out again, but we'll do it again today. Yeah,
well, I know that has helped people in the past, isn't it? Watching that and understanding what to do if you're in that situation that Michael was talking about.
8:51. In 1971, Dame Vera Lynn's stunning performance of Roger Whittaker's New World in the Morning on her variety show was broadcast to an audience of millions.
Now, nearly 50 years on from that, the original recording has been dug out of the archives and it's been given a new lease of life. It features contributions from the BBC's Philharmonic Orchestra, performing during lockdown, of course. Let's have a little look. Both of you. Virginia, what do you think of it, listening to it there this morning?
Well, I think it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, the first I heard of it, actually...
Optimistic, upbeat message that possibly lots of us need right now.
Absolutely.
Speak to Beth. Beth, hopefully we can hear you. I'm not sure the picture that we've got is the best this morning, but we'd love to hear about, this idea of reversioning this. And when did you first get the idea about how it might work?
Yeah, sorry, having some connection issues this morning.
Try and ask a question to Beth Wells, a senior project manager from BBC Philharmonic, who put this together. Beth, I mean, how did you even come up with the idea?
Found the archive. It's thankfully it's worked out. And Virginia, as Louise was saying as well, I think you talk about the music still meaning an awful lot and still resonating. And as Louise touched on earlier, it's those lyrics as well. I'm sure that is a message that many people this morning watching this will be thinking, well, let's hope that your mum's got it right.
Well,
very much indeed, Virginia Lewis-Jones, Dame Vera Lynn's daughter. Thank you.
It was nice to hear at least a few words from Beth Wells as well. Occasionally, as we all know, the technology lets us down, doesn't it?
That is it from Breakfast this morning. We will be back tomorrow morning from 6.
See you then.
Bye-bye.